last week on the Al Nicoletti Show. Let's welcome him to the show, Nick Legamaro. Nick, the note guy. What's up, man?
I'm a master of one thing and one thing only. It's creatively structuring notes. You can't put your own beliefs in the model because you'll really do yourself a disservice on what people really will buy. We give the buyers what they need, not necessarily what they want, because they can make it the way they want. We are really a complementary solution to what people are already doing right now. What happens when the seller doesn't say yes? What is your plan B? Contrary to popular belief, not all sellers want cash. How do you give the seller what they're asking for, not necessarily the seller giving you what you ask them in cash? We don't think like landlords. We think like banks, okay? We want to act, think, and be a bank. Banks don't own anything. They control.
Different states have different rules about who has title and who actually just has a lien on the property. And it's called lien theory versus title theory states.
Who owns the house? You or the bank?
Well, it depends on the state, but
you always own it. But yeah, I shouldn't asked an attorney that question. That was a bad move on my part. The biggest piece of advice I can give, you have to invest in yourself from an educational perspective.
Thank you again for coming on live on the Al Nicoletti Show. You're the man.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
What's up, everybody? Al Nicoletti here. It's Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. We are rocking and rolling with another amazing episode with another amazing guest. And if you missed Nick Legamaro's episode last week, boy, he was on fire, talking about everything from doing deals on terms, creative financing, everything to know when you want to start really getting into some interesting structuring. And I think some really great points he was talking about, which was, one of the first steps is you can get into wholesaling, but then there's another level and really knowing your numbers. And I really got that takeaway from understanding creative financing in terms, which is understanding your numbers and getting some data down, because you want to make sure the deal makes sense and that any kind of loan, or maybe you're not doing the loan, maybe you're selling it or buying notes or whatever you're doing, you got to make sure you have all your ducks in a row. So Nick, he is amazing, and you can check out his episode, which is on iTunes, Spotify, and the replay, which is on the YouTube channel under Al Nicoletti, and it's been posted on the Facebook business page, the personal page, and of course, all the micro content that's going to drop from that show is going to come out on Instagram. So that's at Attorney Nicoletti. And again, the kind of guests that we bring on the show have so much value and information when it comes to the real estate industry. Or maybe it's not just real estate itself, but it's adjacent real estate, things that really kind of help the real estate market boom and move. So we bring in all these people from season 1, season 2, season 3. So tonight, it's no different. And you know the topic because we've been posting about it everywhere. It's my favorite, probate. We're going to talk about things in the probate world. And this guest, she's been doing it for years in the investing side of probate. And this is going to be really interesting, diving in on so many things with branding and all of this. So we're going to dive into it. You know, I do my introduction, so let's rock this thing. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their community that educate, entertain, inspire all things on Florida real estate and going beyond. Going to different places all over the country, trying to really bring on guests that can provide value to you in whatever market you're in. Whether you're in Texas or Georgia or North Carolina, whatever it is, people ask so many questions when it comes to things, not just in Florida and not just in wholesaling, but when it comes to commercial investing, when it comes to Airbnbs, we all want to know what that's like. And we want to have the best people on that understand it. And tonight, we are going to have an amazing guest, Sharon Vornholt. She is the one to go to when it comes to probate real estate investing, and she's in the Kentucky market. This is what's crazy. I don't think Sharon realized what the show was going to be like and how wild and crazy it is. We literally came on like 5 minutes before because it's always a fun time behind the scenes on the Al Nicoletti studio, and it's crazy how we get to connect with people and who connects us. And Frank the man, connected me and Sharon, and he saw the synergies. He's thinking, Al's the attorney in Florida. Sharon's that real estate investor that's doing probates hard in the Kentucky market. We connected, and I remember the phone call, which is so good to really hear what's happening in other markets. And Sharon was diving in on so much stuff. I immediately was like, we got to have her on the show. We got to talk about this stuff because everybody loves hearing about probate. So on the show today, we're going to talk about understanding marketing and branding and how it's used to get leads and why branding is to choose you, right? And why understanding this is one of the keys to success when it comes to probate investing. We have to understand all that. That's huge. Also, why having a marketing plan and using a very specific mail piece will do several things to set you apart. I'm going to let her get into all that. She's going to tell you all that. We're giving you the information now to set the tone of what she's going to get into, because that's going to be big. And why she believes that in order to be successful in the probate niche, an investor needs to understand certain things like the probate process, basic terminology, mindset, stuff that I've talked about, but it's really cool seeing it from an outsider perspective of somebody doing deals, especially that's in Kentucky. Right? We're not talking about Florida or Georgia. It's a niche market over there. You got to know people over there, the who's who. So it's really important we dive into this. And I'm super excited. I know you all are too. Of course, I got my book out. We're ready to take notes. We're ready to grab all the micro from Sharon. So without further ado, let's welcome her to the show. Sharon Vornholt, welcome.
Well, I'm happy to be here. It's too bad you don't have any energy, Al.
I know. I should have had my coffee before I got on the show, and I don't have it when I get on. You got it. I'm so happy we finally get to connect. I know we were able to connect via phone through Frank, and I just thought it was amazing on what you're doing in your market. And I'm happy that you get to be on live. People can ask questions. People can get into it. We have so many viewers that are investors and realtors that really get into this market. So tell everybody, who's Sharon? What were you doing before probate? Why did you get into probate, and where are you today?
Well, it's funny, Al. I got into off-market deals in itself because I didn't want to compete with all the agents and all the investors on the MLS. So I was going for the low-hanging fruit, and it took me quite some time before I stumbled over probates. But once I did, I knew it was a golden opportunity because, as you know, it's an endless stream of leads. And we get to help so many people. So that's where I came from. I was using, I've always been a marketer. I'm a big marketer. I believe in branding, which is something most real estate investors don't do. And you marry those together and you have a source of leads like probates. You can just set the world on fire with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much opportunity with it. Like you said, getting leads, where you can get leads. Let's dive in on that. And when did you start getting into the probate world? Like what year was that? Before 2008? Was that even like the 90s? When was that?
No, it was 2008. As I look back on it now, it's funny that I didn't know about probates. And nobody in my area was working probates. So we all know what happened in 2008. That was the year it hit Kentucky. So I stumbled across them and I tried to find information about probates, and there was nothing. There were no courses, no blogs, no probate attorneys in my area that were, putting out information. There was no Al for sure. That's for sure. So it was hard. It was hard in the beginning. I had to figure it out, cobble it together, and learn the hard way what worked, what didn't work. But it took a couple of years to figure the whole thing out. And I looked around, and Al, there was literally no competition. People will say, well, today I have 30 people that sent a letter out. Well, there were probably 3 or 4 back then. And I tell them, look on the MLS, that if you're looking for deals on the MLS, what are the thousands? In your area, there's probably, I don't even know how many, what is the population of where you are?
Oh, like in Florida, it's got to be millions.
Millions. So you've probably got thousands and thousands of agents, and that would be your competition for these deals. So for me, it was about the low-hanging fruit, and I got the opportunity to help so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. The helping people part. We'll
Mhm.
definitely get into that and why understanding that's going to be important.
Mhm.
Also, what we'll do, to get everybody watching. Everybody wants to know at the end of the day, how do you get these leads? Like, where do you go? What are some
Mhm.
secret sauce ways that you can get these leads? We're going to save that for a certain point. We won't say when, so we'll get everybody on it. But let's talk about this. So, you finally find a niche in getting into this
Mhm.
market. Oh, wait, that's fascinating. So,
Mhm.
at a time when people were really getting it either into foreclosures or short sales, you pivoted
Mhm.
into this market. What a lot of people probably say, well, that's crazy. You're missing an opportunity here.
Mhm.
Um, at the beginning, how many deals were you picking up, and like, what was one of the most memorable ones that you saw when you first dove into it?
Well, at that time, it was probably about a deal a month. So I came when 2008 came, I was doing rehabbing primarily, picking up a buy and hold here and there. But in 2008, no one could get a mortgage. So that's when I pivoted to wholesaling. So I was wholesaling, which was combining that with probates. It was a great thing. And I started to see a common thread. Did you talk about deals? Was that the houses were often not in terrible shape. They were outdated. They had some deferred maintenance, but maybe they had a new roof and a new furnace. So those deals, it was like a theme, and they were always my most profitable deals. Of all the deals, probates were the most profitable ones on the planet.
What kind of spreads or what kind of money were you looking at when you say most profitable? Like, difference between a regular deal?
Well, I would say, on a regular wholesale deal here at that time, you could make maybe $10,000 on a wholesale, maybe 18 or 20. So there was a lot more profit in the deals because they were primarily paid off properties. They were had just deferred maintenance and things like that, but there was no huge structural mess that you had to deal with like a lot of the other distressed properties. So if you were a rehabber, you could make significantly more money. Your spread would get bigger and bigger because you could buy them cheaply. As I said, they were paid off properties. And the difference I think is who's selling the property. If you have a regular seller in the property and they want to sell their property, they're looking for money. If you've got the heirs, the executor, whoever is doing this, they mainly just want to get rid of the property. So they know when they call you, they're going to take less money. They know that, right from the get-go. And I think that's a big advantage to investors. They're choosing you rather than to list the property for whatever reason.
Right. I mean, if it's a cash deal, at least they know that it's
Mhm.
going to close quickly, and they'll get
Mhm.
the money. We won't get into all the creditor stuff, and maybe if they have to wait for that period to run. But I see in so many circumstances where investors make $100,000 off a probate deal or
Mhm.
some crazy wild deal in probate versus a $5,000 spread on something. So
Mhm.
we see that all the time. But one thing that keeps coming up is we love to get these deals. We really want to get into probate, but how do we pitch it? How do we market it out there? Right. And everybody watching, Sharon, the show's
Mhm.
live and we love everybody that's watching the show. They
Mhm.
follow, they've subscribed to the channel. So everybody out there, make sure you ask questions. If you want to ask Sharon a question about getting into the niche, we are live. Marketing and branding, really, it starts there, right?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
can have your CRM, you can have anything that you got your system going, but you really want to say, okay, we'll work on the leads later. What are some of the best strategies to marketing and branding and understanding that role so that you can really captivate the sellers or the heirs so they choose you over somebody else?
I think it all starts with your marketing piece. That is the first thing, and I'm very particular about that. I'm very opinionated about that. I don't like the people that do the fancy like birthday card envelopes or invitation envelopes, and I don't like the handwritten letters for these folks. I like computer generated white, like attorney looking legal letters, type regular formal letters where that are mail merged that say, "Dear Al, I'm contacting you about this estate at this address." So it's personalized and they know it's not a letter that says, "Dear Executor." Now, they're used to being an attorney, you know this, but they're used to getting a lot of mail at that time. These folks have been through something that's very hard, and they don't want a tricky looking mail piece, and they don't want to get a postcard in the mail that says, I'm contacting you about your property at that time, because they know that you know. Trust me, they know that you know. So there's not any really getting around it. But I believe that the white mail merge computer generated letter is the mail piece to use for probates. You know, it's not true in other niches. You could use postcards and things like that. But I believe this is the mail piece. And I believe that the words matter. I think your overriding message should be, this is what I do. You know, this is who I am. This is what I do. And I'll be here when you're ready to sell. No pressure, no, can I call you next week? None of that. So you're building this relationship truly with these folks through your mail piece. They're seeing that you're just a trusted resource. You don't do any hard sell. And I tell people, please don't call these folks. They've lost a loved one. Somebody's mama died. Don't be knocking on their door or calling them or doing any of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting with the computer generated type. I wouldn't think that would be something that would attract people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I've ever gotten mail and it's a typed out letter, and especially white paper, black ink,
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking they've sent this to thousands of people. It's just, the same thing over and over again. And I mean, before you explaining this, I've always been under the impression that the handwritten or, the ink, not just a machine generated handwriting thing, but like actually pen to paper specialized, like saying, hey, I'm interested, would love to speak with you. Call me or let's talk about this. I'm here for you.
Yeah.
I would think that would be something, but you're saying, and it sounds like it's worked for you, which is great feedback. What if you have an idea of like what exactly would that message look like, and is the envelope anything special too? Because I saw somebody recently talk about this where they use like colored envelopes, like neon green or blue or something. Is there any pizzazz with the envelope?
There's not, because when people see, now we're talking specifically about probates. So when these people see something that looks like it might be a colored envelope, could be an invitation, it could be a sympathy card or something like that, they get upset when they feel like they've had a bait and switch. That's what I had someone tell me one time, a bait and switch. Now, people today know that the handwritten letters by and large are they're not really handwritten. So if you had only a couple of these to do, you could do that. But if you're talking about scaling and building a business, you simply cannot scale a business with handwriting letters. Now, it's many years ago, we did handwrite the addresses on the envelopes. When we were doing direct mail in-house, we had someone that did it. And I do believe that gets a higher open rate. So even if you use a service that looks handwritten in blue ink, or that's what seems to work best, I do think that has a higher open rate than a typed, or certainly don't use a window envelope. But yes, I do think that makes a difference. And I think you should use a regular stamp. I think you should not put it through one of those machines, or bulk machines. But I think it does make a difference. But these people are very sensitive to everything. When you show up at their door, if you've gotten that far to show up at their door, they're going to tell you about all the bad mail pieces they got. They're for sure going to tell you. Now, you can take a different tact with postcards and not mention the probate. You can not say anything about it. Say, I'm looking for property in your neighborhood. You can do that, but I think you're missing a golden opportunity to set yourself apart as a probate expert. 100%. I think you should just address the elephant in the room. Tell them, I tell them that I know that they're in the process of settling this estate. So I just put it right out there, because otherwise they're going to say, where did you get my information? See, they're not stupid. They know that. So I prefer to address the elephant in the room. And then I show up with my brand as the expert, but as a real person. And I'm not a big, some company, it's Sharon, and I can help you solve this problem. Just tell me, in addition to the house, do you have another problem? Maybe there are liens on the property. Maybe they need help cleaning out the house, whatever that is. And the way you find that out is you just ask them, what else do you need in addition to cash for the property?
Going beyond just
Mhm.
the property itself, really
Just
trying
the
to
property.
help.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well, even with the property though, is there something, maybe they didn't know mom and dad owed back taxes, or you don't they have some other, usually involves money, something financial. But I just try to find out what it is. What is this something else that they need that you can help them with?
Interesting. And I liked how you were saying that the letter versus postcard kind of separates yourself
Mhm,
as the expert. That's a
mhm,
interesting takeaway there. I don't know,
mhm,
maybe you've probably done trial and error on that kind of stuff.
mhm,
And here's
mhm,
the other thing too that you mentioned, that a lot of people miss, a gold mine, which is, let's just say they called you and they wanted you to come to the house and check it out because they liked your letter, and they've also told you and said, hey, 30 other people have mail too. What's
mhm,
also a really cool thing is to say, hey, let me ask you a question. Was there any other mail in here you thought that was interesting? And
mhm,
for them to say, well, I actually like this one and this one. And then you
mhm,
start picking up ideas. And I think that that's
mhm,
been pretty cool too. I remember there was one probate I saw, and as soon as it opened, like 40 people mail it, and it's all either
mhm,
generated little postcards. And I think there was only a couple mail pieces in there, they said, that really stuck out. But, it was already under contract, already sold. So,
mhm,
um, and one thing that I was able to that I read in the notes, which was the ability to not just do the mailer one time. People think
mhm,
that when you do something, you do it one time. Oh, it didn't work. Let me try it one more time. Oh, it didn't work, and that's it.
mhm,
Your method is again, 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 and
mhm,
you just keep going until you just know that it's sold. Talk
mhm.
about that.
Yep. So when someone asks me, how long do you mail these people? My answer is until I buy the house, someone else buys the house, or they come off my list for some reason, which rarely happens. And if you look at direct mail statistics, these are across the board and they're still true today. Over 81% of your deals will come about on or beyond your fifth mailing. That's 81%. Now, does that mean you won't get deals before that? No. But here's the other surprising statistic: 90% of your competition will quit on or before the third mailing. You just have to stay in the game. Okay. Don't worry about the 30 letters or the 50 letters or however many letters that come in the beginning, because these folks they're not going to sell. There's no getting to the gate first in probates, at least not in my experience. They're going to sell when they are mentally ready to sell that property, and it could be in this month or next month, but most of the time it's not. So don't worry about being first. Worry about being consistent and waiting for everybody else to go, this stuff doesn't work. That really works to your advantage. So mail everybody every month. And in a best case world, at about 4 or 5 months, you would scrub your list and take off the solds. It's been my experience that most people do it at around 6 months. You want to get those properties off there because it's expensive to mail people. You want to get those, scrub your list, get those people off, and then continue mailing to them as long as the house is available. And I always tell people, if I talk to them and let's say we didn't strike up a deal, I always ask permission to keep them on the list in case they're plan A. Maybe they've decided to list the property. And I'll say, well, if it's okay with you, I'd like to keep you on the list just in case your plan A doesn't work out. I'd like to be your plan B. But there is just some magic in understanding that you're playing the long game here.
Hmm. Interesting. So, and I can just tell just by talking to you. I mean, it sounds like you also have to have like a Sharon on your team, like somebody that's soft spoken, that's going to be able to really explain it. It sounds like no resistance here. You're just here's what we're doing. Here's what we offer. Look, we're here for you. That's really it. And a lot of different investors take a different approach of
Mhm.
the aggressive side. So that's interesting. Uh, a lot of people want to know, what's the sweet spot? Like, when do you start the mailing process? Is it 2 months? Is it, 4 months, 5 months? Has there been a trial and error of when you begin this?
Mhm.
Because I'll say, a lot of people have heard of pre-probate leads, right? Those are really fresh, but there's also a lot of leads out there that the property's been sitting for 5, 10 years.
Mhm.
The family's been paying the taxes. What has been your sweet spot in timing?
My philosophy on this is, since probate in most areas here, there would be very few instances in Kentucky where that property would sit that long if the probate were actually opened. So my philosophy is that they open the probate sometimes soon after the person passes away, but more than often than not, it will be some time after the person passes away. It might be 3 months or 6 months. Sometimes it's a year. But when they open that probate, when they go through that process, they're raising their hand and they're saying, I'm ready to move forward with the sale of the estate. That's when I start mailing. Because now, you're an attorney, Al. So a dead person can't sign any paperwork. So you have to wait, in my opinion, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you have to wait till the estate is opened to, and there's someone that's been, either declared the executor or, the PR, whatever. But that's when they can sell the property. So it's when the estate is open, that's when I've always done marketing.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many logistics when it comes to that too, right?
Mhm.
In Florida, there's different things with homestead, and that
Mhm.
if you have that kind of property, you need everybody on board, or if it's not that kind of property, maybe you need a personal representative. There's so many different things in different states. Everybody just know it's like, I see Florida, Sharon sees a lot of Kentucky, so
Mhm.
that may be something that happens there, where you see, where you need an executor. Because Sharon, we've seen times where they can go under contract with all the heirs even before the probate, right? We've seen those situations.
Wow.
Can they get it sold before probate? No, right? I mean, at some point, it's still got to take place. It sounds like Kentucky's the same thing.
Mhm.
It's, at some point, no matter if you just need the executor over in Kentucky or whatever, at some point, you still need the probate to get it done over
Mhm.
there. And a lot of times, families just don't know. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm sure you've been told, hey, I got the power of attorney. Hey, I got the will. We don't need to do
Mhm.
this. Hey, we got this. How do you overcome those kind of objections when hey, Sharon, I loved your mail piece. You're in, but here's my situation. How do you overcome we got the will, we got the POA?
I just talk to them, and then if I ever have a question, this you'll find this surprising. I call my attorney. So,
Wow. All right. There we
wow,
go.
what a thought, right?
What a win.
My attorney is great, but you know, I don't have a lot of that here. People tend to follow the process. Maybe you've got more rule breakers down there. More. I probably need to pick your brain on that one, but it's it's just kind of the way it's always been done here, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's interesting. I could see there being a lot of different nuances between states on how things are done, or
Mhm.
even demographics. I mean, more of that country vibe. It's more city vibe here, or in different places. I'm sure.
Yeah. Now wait a
There's
minute, I live in the big city, Louisville.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Well, you never know. I mean, it's so spread out. It could be different areas that you're going to. Just like
Mhm.
in Florida. Florida's got different areas
Yeah.
that's not just metro. You got the farms, you got countryside, so tons of different areas, right?
Mhm.
So, I would also, I bring up the marketing piece because a lot of people ask those questions, and they want to know, how do we hit it? Where do we go? What are some of the tactics and tricks
Mhm.
that we can do when we get into these different markets? Have you seen other people that you've been doing it a long time? Have you seen others kind of follow your same approach with marketing in other markets? Let's just say Texas or California or other places.
Yes, I have students all over the country that have taken my course that follow this method. There are others, from my personal experience too, is that I don't like to mail surviving spouses right out of the gate. They, especially if they're older, they get worried that you're coming after their house. So we had a little bit different process for them. We would wait 6 months and then maybe send a postcard that said generically, I'm looking at property in your area. If you're interested in selling, give me a call. So we took a different tactic with those people, and that worked very well, because around the year point, it seems to be that a lot of these, especially if it's women that are left behind, they go, this house is too much trouble. I don't want to cut the grass. I don't want to get somebody to cut the grass, whatever. So that's like a whole secondary marketing thing. And you could use letters for that. But I think in that case, you can for sure use a postcard if it doesn't mention the passing of their spouse or whatever. I think you have to just take a different approach.
Interesting. And you just brought up a great idea. I could see people maybe not approaching the spouse, but maybe they find out there's kids, and that kind of, they mail the kids, and then all of a sudden the kids are then talking to the spouse, and then it generates conversation.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go. That's an interesting idea right there. So that can happen. And you also mentioned branding, right?
Yes.
So a lot of times I've seen investors, they just jump into the game, they get into wholesaling. They don't have a logo. They don't have a mission statement or a message. They don't have their I buy houses cash. We close really fast. What is the importance to having that brand, either personal business brand? Like, what's that side of it to the trust factor of drawing somebody in?
Well, it's huge. And you've got the physical attributes of branding, which are your logos and your fonts and your business cards and all of that. But at its core, your brand is what you stand for. It's what people say about you when you walk out of the room. It's about that image you project. So it's really who you are, what you do, and whether you say and whether you do what you say you're going to do. If you're a brand new investor, and this was a mistake I made in the beginning, and I cannot even think about how many years I wasted just kind of sitting on the sidelines. When I tell new investors, if you go to your local RIA meeting, go up and meet. If you see Al there, go up and say, hey, Al, I'm John or whatever. I'm brand spanking new, but I'm here to learn. Is there anything I can do for you? Well, Al's going to remember you. You can also volunteer at your local real estate investors meeting. Start building brand awareness around the brand of you. And from there, you need to be doing, a number of things. You need to, first of all, be creating some kind of content. Now, Al creates a lot of content. I create a lot of content. But you don't have to be that. And let's just face it, nobody's probably going to be as bold and rambunctious as Al. He's a different animal, folks. Somebody told me recently, we were talking about branding, and he said, Sharon, you're the steak and I'm the sizzle. So Al is the sizzle, just in case you haven't figured this out. I told him,
there we go.
I said, Andrew, if we weren't such good friends, I could probably take that the wrong way. But no, he had a point. Not everybody is sizzle. So your brand has to be about you. It has to be who you are, and you have to be okay being yourself, because folks, everybody else is already taken. So you got to work with what you've got to work with. So go out there and start to build recognition around you, which is building a personal brand. Nobody is going to know. If Al named his show the Vista Property Show, what does that even mean? It doesn't mean anything. He's building the brand of Al Nicoletti. So you want to build the brand of you and back that up with a company, certainly on your letterhead. I believe in having LLCs and all. I believe in having the setup of the business foundation of your business correct. Don't get me wrong. But that's not what you need to go out and start doing deals. And it's not what you need to build your brand. Now, I will hammer this, hit you over the head with it. You need a website, folks. This is 2022. Get a darn website. Have a place where people can go. And then if you're into probate investing, you don't need a probate website, but you need a website, and you need a page on there that says, hey, I am your local probate expert. Let me tell you how I can help you. This isn't a time to tout your experience. You do that toward the end of the page, but you want to say, this is how I can make your life easier. This is how I've been doing this locally for 10 years, 20 years, whatever. But you start to build your brand piece by piece. You build it on social media. Get known as the person who drops tidbits about probates or marketing or branding or whatever your specialty is. Drop tidbits, tips on Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever social media platforms you use. But you would be surprised how very quickly you can own the first couple of pages of Google just by doing that.
Amazing.
It's amazing. Yes.
Yeah, algorithm really plays a role
Yeah.
when you start really getting
Mhm.
into it.
Mhm.
Is everybody loving this? What Sharon's talking about tonight? I mean, I see everybody watching. That's on. I know Kevin. He's out in Lakeland, Florida. Good evening, Kevin. Alan Johnson, down from the Southwest Florida area. He says, "Nice job, Sharon. I heard and met Al at a RIA meeting in Fort Myers several months ago. You know it. He was on. I was on tour down there, and he was at the meeting, so I got to meet people."
Well, Alan is a Louisville guy. See, I
Oh,
know Alan Johnson is a realtor and investor. Yeah. So, hey, Alan.
There you go. People that you recognize. That's awesome. And somebody, restream in our stuff that we use. Sometimes I can't see who it is, but they said, yep, branding is everything in all caps. So great point right there. True Mika is watching. What's up, True? How you doing? I know she's taking notes definitely with George right now. This is great stuff. So I'm so happy you're watching it, True. Somebody said she's dropping a lot of gems. We definitely have more rule breakers. I think they meant Florida. I have no idea what somebody's actually on Twitch tonight. That's crazy. Somebody is in Miami, Florida that's watching. I'm laughing back here because Mike and I see all the stuff in the back. We're just like, there's always something going on. Alan's watching. Doug, Al, tell Sharon hi for me. So Doug,
hi, Doug.
There you go. Love it. Love it. So, anybody that has any questions about what's going on and anything for Sharon about anything in real estate investing. We'll also talk about another thing I wrote down to Sharon about approaching attorneys. I get asked all the time about, how do you do it? What's the best ways? How do you get into, especially in different markets? It doesn't matter if it's in California. We'll talk about that. But I think a lot of people will take a lot of value from this. And what you talked about, branding, having a website, that was important. Having that image, talking about the why, dropping content. Now, if you're going to do that, I think that segments into why you believe that in order to be really successful in this niche, you got to have the basics down, right? You got to have an understanding of what the process is, terminology, mindset. If you've come to one of my presentations, actually, I've been doing a lot lately. I was just at a realtor meetup in an office, and I usually have a PowerPoint, but today I was like, you know what? We're going to go through the basics because a lot of people want that. You got to know this stuff when you're approaching sellers. What are some of the things that you see are critical when you get deals in probate and you get a seller on the phone or you want to make content? What are those things that you have to know if you want to get in this niche?
Well, it's imperative that you show up as the expert, and that involves you knowing the process. And the process is pretty similar in most states, but it's different at the same time. So you can Google the probate process in your state. If you do not have somebody like Al, you can call and just say, Al, educate me in 5 minutes. What's the what do I need to know about probate? So you have to educate yourself, and don't just, get on Google, look up the stuff, and then check it out and make sure it's accurate. But you have to understand the process, and you have to understand a little bit of terminology. Now, I like to say, this is why God made probate attorneys. That's why God made attorneys. So we don't have to know all of this, but you have to be able to have a conversation with the seller, because trust me, they don't know what's going on most of the time either. They don't have a clue. So when they ask you a common term or what does this mean, my first answer is, have you talked to your attorney? Well, I can give you the basic. I can tell you what an executor is. What's the difference between an administrator? How did they get there? But always, if you have an attorney, ask them. But you have to be able to have a conversation with them that allows you to show up as the expert. So you start to stack these things on top of each other, and you have to understand their mindset. There's a mindset, your mindset, which you have to get straight around all of this. And then the seller's mindset. Once you understand that this is a legal process, that they have to take care of this, it's required of them, and they're just looking for a way out. They've got their family, their career, their jobs, their soccer practice, whatever, the baseball team the kids are on. They've got all of those things called life. And then on top of that, they've got this job dropped in their lap where they have to settle this estate. They don't want the property most of the time. They just want out. They want to move on with their life. And to be blunt, they want the money, whatever's coming to them. So when you have this knowledge and you understand them, you understand where they are, and you can have a conversation with them that clearly sets you apart from the person that knows zero about probate, you have such a much better chance of getting the deal, even if you're not the highest offer.
Interesting. I think, and how I explain it too is just by having that basic knowledge, and it's like knowledge plus confidence equals higher results than normal.
Right.
Right. You will get more attention. I tell a story about one lady who she called me one day and was like, "Hey, we got to do this." And I said, "Great. I mean, here's what we got to do. We got to do 2 probates." But then she was like, "Mr. Nicoletti, can you please tell me what probate even is?" And it was surprising that, first of all, she was asking me, and I'm thinking, well, hold on a second. I got you. But the second thing was that it's amazing that nobody else could explain it. And I think that was the game changer that set apart the deal, because it's, we've worked on it, we're going through it. And it's like people missed out on the opportunity because they didn't know that stuff, right? They didn't know the process.
Yeah.
They didn't have to know definitions. Number one, like you're saying, Sharon, they got to know where to go. They got to know the basic ideas. They have to understand maybe certain things in terminology, but ultimately where to go. I mean, their title, the attorney, here's your role, you stay in your lane. And I think that is a great point in what you're talking about, especially talk about that mindset too. I mean, I think that goes to confidence, but what's going through your mind when you're either trying to explain a certain thing to a seller or the process or guiding them through?
Well, I'm always looking for the best solution for them. And I have told a lot of sellers, I'm not your best option. You really should list this house. So I think, and that's just me. Um, if, but the funny thing is, Al, they'll almost always come back and say, I don't want to list the house. I say, okay, then we can move forward. I want you to understand, though, that you could make more. You give up some things. You give up the fast cash offer. You give up getting it done quickly. But, I like to be transparent with these people. And then if they want to move forward, that's great with me, because they usually do. And that's right there. There's a trust bomb you just dropped that you can't replace. But I think you have to, you nailed it when you said, when you have this information, knowledge is power, and you can show up with confidence. That puts you at the top of the pack for all investors that show up there. You're already ahead of them. They trust you, they believe, and they know that you know what you're talking about. But you also have gotten your mindset straight from the get-go. Now, investors, by and large, when you talk to them about why aren't you working in probates, they say, I'm not doing that. It's all about death. I feel like I'm taking advantage of somebody at the worst time in their life. They're going to look at me like an ambulance chaser, when that couldn't be further from the truth. If they have called you, they know that they're not getting top dollar for the property, but they also know that they don't have to put any money into the property. They don't have to get it ready to sell on the MLS. They're looking for a way out. They want a fast, quick closing. They want cash. And the trade-off is that they're going to get less for the property. But as an investor, if you're going to look at them and talk to them eye to eye, you have to believe in your heart that you're doing what's the best, that it's a win-win for everybody. You have to first fix your mindset. And then you have to understand their mindset, which you just talked about. They just want to move on. That's really it. They want to get that house sold and move on.
Yeah, and I've seen too where they're done paying the property taxes. So a
Right.
lot of times it
Yeah.
comes down to money. That
Yeah.
we're done. Yeah. I mean, we're
Yeah.
done paying the mortgage. We're done doing all this, the maintenance, the lawn
Mhm.
people keep coming over. We don't want to go
Mhm.
through that anymore.
Yeah, they're just done. If you can get to that point and know exactly what it is they want, like I said, they always want to sell the property. But I always ask the question, is there anything else that I can help, any problem I can help you solve that would allow you to move forward with the sale of the property? Or what's holding you back from moving forward with the sale of the property? And it's amazing. They will just tell you. One time somebody said, I needed to rent a truck to take these pieces of furniture that I want. They didn't have the money to do that. And I said, well, that'll be whatever it was. We called Home Depot, $69, whatever. I rented the truck. Did I give them the money? No. I met the arranged to have the truck taken over there, have the furniture moved, got the contract signed, and then arranged all of that. I've had locks changed on properties. People lost the keys and couldn't get back in the property. Whatever it takes, it might be something as simple as that. But just go at it. Change your mindset from I am taking advantage of these people to I am giving them a great gift. I'm helping them move on with their life. And I'm just here to be of service to them. And in the process, I get to make money, get to build a great business. We talked about these being better deals. I have a friend in Chicago, and he has hit home runs on a bunch of probate properties, wholesaling them in the $100,000 range.
Wow.
Home run deals. Yeah.
That sounds like a great market. I'm sure everybody's
Yes.
going to go there now. Wow.
Chicago, yeah. So, but they're really everywhere. I mean, not every deal is that big, but you can stand to make some significant amount of money on probate properties.
Yeah, and like I said before, I mean, I saw one that the family, they were behind in the foreclosure. They just wanted to
Mhm.
get rid of it. They were tired of paying the mortgage. It was heading to foreclosure, and they just wanted to offload it. And I think
Mhm.
they saw the value in somebody saying, "Hey, let me purchase it from you." But then the
Mhm.
investor saw it as, "Hey, we got an option here. We could do something here with this."
Right.
And they were able to, I don't even know if they wholesaled it out or they did an Airbnb, but it's a
Mhm.
cash flow opportunity. So, and I'm
Wow.
sure you've seen a lot of investors that don't want to get into it. I made a note here, and it kind of tied into the branding and the why they don't want to get into it.
Mhm.
When you know the right people to go to, and you know the right resources, mentors,
Mhm.
JV partners, people that have been in the game a while, attorneys that really understand all of this stuff. When you got that collective together, there's no stopping the
Mhm.
deal. You're gonna find deals. And I remember talking to somebody recently where they said, "Oh yeah, a lot of buddies of mine, they just pass off the probate."
Mhm. Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, boy, oh boy, what an
Mhm.
opportunity if you know somebody that really can understand the probate process.
Mhm.
I mean, and you got the right attorney,
Mhm.
how you can leverage that opportunity and say, "Hey, the 10 of you sitting all at the table, at the breakfast table, you all don't wanna do them. I'll either JV with them or JV with you on them, or you refer
Mhm.
them and do some kind of arrangement." And
Mhm.
then you get an endless stream of stuff,
Mhm.
right? I mean, those are
Right.
opportunities.
Yeah, 100%. And I will say, and I'm not just saying this because Al is sitting here. Obviously, he knows this, but my attorney is an integral part of my team. He's a friend. He is, I cannot tell you how many times he's called me when he would run title and say, we've got a little glitch in the title. They tried to do the probate process themselves. And this was when I learned to write my contracts differently. So I didn't have to keep going back and getting them updated. He said, Sharon, here are the magic words. You say when you're going to close upon court/attorney approval. And I learned that lesson the hard way early on when it took me 5 months of going back to a seller and praying no one offered him $1,000 more. But yeah, my attorney is just, I couldn't have done this really without my attorney. And that's the truth. I love my attorney.
Well, that's a great segment into a question I don't think we were even getting into, which is
Mhm.
the probate contract. A lot of people think, oh, there's a thing out there called the probate contract, and there's really no probate
No
contract.
probate contract, yeah.
And what are some you said it right there, so you can definitely go through that again. But what are some things you've learned along the way that actually you want to get into on the contract, whether it's really setting the parameters on court order, closing subject to probate court orders, who's paying the attorney's fees and costs? Talk to us about like what have been some great little clauses or additions in the contract.
Generally speaking, I usually each side pays their closing costs here, unless it's a problem. Remember when I said find out what they need? If they don't have any money, then you paying the closing costs is going to be something you want to know before you make your offer. So you want to know what costs you're going to incur. If they can't pay the back taxes, sure, you can pay them, but you're going to have to adjust your offer. So you need to ask these things up front and make sure that they get into the contract. But the main thing that I put in there, I allow a little more time, and I just tell the people, sometimes stuff comes up in probates. I might be saying closing, if a typical wholesale deal, I might say, or just a deal, closing is no sooner than 7 days, no longer than 14 days or 21 days. But then in a probate deal, I'll generally say, look, I'm going to write a longer time, 14 to 30 days, maybe, upon court/attorney approval. And I explain that to them, that sometimes things just go haywire a little bit, or they take longer, and we can't close. We're going to leave this contract in place, and it'll protect you, and it helps me to just not come back and keep bugging you. But the court or the attorney, one of them will tell us when we're good to close, when all the pieces to the puzzle are all there and the puzzle's all together. And you don't have to worry about it then. I will let you know, because my attorney will let me know when that's good to go. And then we'll just move forward, and I'll be ready to close as soon as they tell me it's okay to close. Other than that, I always make the offer in the contract that they can take what they want out of the property, and I will take care of the rest. It's a standard thing, because that hangs a lot of people up. They take things out of the house, the mementos, the valuables. They always search the books for monies and things like that. But they'll get to a point where they'll look around and they go, okay, I'll come back next week. And then I'll come back next week. And I always make the offer that if there are things you want here, go ahead and take them. And if you can't bear to throw away your mom's, it was my mom's sofa. That was her thing she loved. This high-end sofa she had bought 20 years before. She loved that sofa. I could not bring myself to throw it in the dumpster. It didn't have any monetary value. So someone took it away, and we will have someone do that for them to get the deal done. That's the purpose. You want to get the deal done for them and for you. And it's really a quick thing you just add into your repair list. Am I cleaning out the house? No. Was Al cleaning out the house? No. You kind of look at it and go, okay, this is one dumpster this size and 4 men, X number of dollars. It's just a line item on the repair list for me. But that takes a great weight off of them if they can simply close the deal and walk away.
Yeah, I think a lot of people go into deals or they just think about it as a lot of people have the ones that are not probate, so they don't think through a lot of these things with the probate involved, and maybe some of those little intricacies with inheritance on personal property, or the couch, the painting, and all of that. And that all can play a role in the probate process as well. But they don't think through what happens in those scenarios and who's gonna haul that out and who's gonna take care of that. So definitely that is great stuff that you just dropped right there. I think a lot of people can take away great nuggets from that. Also on closing, right? I mean, it's not just about getting under contract. It's about closing the deal. We'll talk about title. But the fact that you kind of leave it open-ended, I heard like it's like 14 days or 30 days after the court orders kind of leaves a gap in there. And I think setting the expectations of what you're going to expect and who's paying what. So many people jump in deals, they don't think about this stuff, and it's huge.
Well, and from a branding perspective, my goal is always to close it days after we clear to close. See, I want to exceed their expectations. I put that time in there. It's like just in case time, but I want to be able to call them up and say, guess what? It's Friday. We can close next Tuesday. Does that work for you? And they're so happy because they're not expecting that. That's, when I talk about branding, I think I love this book Mike Michalowicz wrote, and everybody should get this. He's the guy that wrote Profit First and the
Yeah.
Pumpkin Plant, all those books. So Mike was on my podcast, and we talked about his book. It's called Get Different: Marketing That Can't Be Ignored. And that's what I've always tried to do with marketing is if somebody is zigging, I want to zag a little bit. Somebody's sending a thank you note, which I always did, whether I got the deal or not, by the way. If I looked at a property, I always sent a thank you note, always reminded them that I would like to be their plan B. But more recently, I've been sending little bonjuros, little videos, because nobody does that. Nobody sends them that little video that pops up in their email. They can see you. They can see your face. It's not go to this strange link. But I'll just say, hey, it's Sharon. I'll either say, I'm so happy we're going to be working together, or thanks for showing me your property, or I'm sorry we couldn't reach an agreement, but same thing. If your plan A doesn't work out, I'd love to be your plan B. And I'm going to send you a formal thank you note with my business card. And the reason is they probably got mad at my offer and threw it in the garbage. So you just find a way to circle around and be different all the time. And that's from a branding perspective, you set the expectations and always. But if you can exceed those, guess what? They're going to go tell everybody, well, gosh, they got this done. There was no pain at all. I got my money. They cleaned out the house. And you can do this on, how many times have you bought a house that's completely full of crap? You can use that same strategy on any house. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it.
Yeah, and that probably relieves them as well, knowing that
Mm-hmm.
nobody's going to have to deal with that, and you'll take care of that, or you have a team that comes in and deals with that. So huge stuff there. And we have a couple other people that have jumped on. Gina's watching. Love it, Gina. I know she's probably going crazy over the title side of things with probate. There's so many crazy things that happen in probate, but then when you get to the title side, I know Gina's been learning a ton of stuff seeing this on the title end. So we'll get into some title stuff. Rachel Landon's watching. Thank you so much, Rachel. Really appreciate it. I mean, yes, that was a crazy scenario. So I had to go to jail the other day to go get a signature from an heir. That was crazy, Mike. That's another story we'll talk about later. But it's crazy getting into those kinds of situations where you got to take it to a next step to try to help figure out the whole situation. And, it was out in the middle of nowhere. So we're working on it. Not done yet. We're working on it. That's my style. We got to get it done first. So love it, Rachel. Thanks so much. Frank in the house. Frank Spalding. What is going on, Frank? He says, evening, Sharon. And Frank is doing awesome stuff in Jacksonville. He was big in the hive mind. So Frank's always a follower of the show, and I love it. Let's talk about title stuff here for a second. So investors, they focus on the contract, the seller, the marketing piece, all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's about closing the deal. And I think a lot of times I see this on my end where the investors or the realtors, they will just let the contract go, let title deal with it, and that's it. And all of a sudden, now a wetlands report comes up. This comes up. This situation that's requiring a reduction in liens. And yeah, there's things that title companies handle and all that. But how important is it to stay in those situations and kind of be hands-on when you get those sticky things in the title world?
I think it's a really important, and I'm kind of a rare bird. Now, if I were doing a million deals a year, I probably wouldn't be doing this, but I like to go to my attorney's office. I like to show up and know everybody, talk to them, the title, whoever's there, whatever's going on. I like to be in the thick of it. And I know that's not everybody. They're too busy for that. And I might not do it every single time, but I think it's crucial that you stay in there, that you know what the problems are. And I'm lucky that my attorney, he's very good about letting me know all that stuff, because for me, it's a learning experience too. I'm not a title expert. So every time I get in one of those situations, I like it. And this business is all about building relationships. So I would say to you, if you're new or if you can do it, go to the closing, meet the people. When you need something done, guess what? They can put a face with it. They remember that you brought them the cookies at Christmas time or whatever that looks like. But again, you're branding yourself. You're setting yourself apart from all the people that never show up, that never get in the thick of that. They don't meet Gina, who's doing the title work. They don't take the time to build those relationships.
Yeah, or understand that there's certain things that it's maybe not about probate. Maybe
Right.
it's about different reports that come up. Like I saw one
Mhm.
recently that everybody was so worried about getting that probate done, but they forgot all about the environmental issues and stuff.
Right.
So we've seen those things pop up from time to time, and that ends up being a great topic. Also, something that comes up all the time is attorneys. So I get the Facebook message or the Instagram message about, "Hey Al, we know you're in Florida, but let me ask you this. I'm in Oregon and I would love to find a way to either get more leads or just make a really good connection
Mhm.
with an attorney that's in that state that understands it either the way you do or
Mhm.
hey, I got these deals they got to get done." What have been some of the best tips and tricks of building rapport or building a relationship with that attorney in another market so that you can really hit the ground running if you want to get into this niche?
Well, I think you have to trust referrals from people that are there. I think just picking up, looking up somebody online is very dangerous. But I think if you find someone like you, certainly if someone were looking for an attorney in South Florida and Miami area, you would be the one that would come up. And I think some attorneys are getting better at branding themselves. My attorney is great at branding himself, but he teaches a lot. Does what you do. He goes and he teaches agents. He teaches continuing education. He is a member of our real estate investors group. And why I love him so much is because he's also an investor. So when something weird comes up, he has seen it, he's done it, he knows how to take care of it. And it's hard to find that person if you're doing work in another area. I think you have to reach out to your network. You're lucky you talk to a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people on my podcast, so it would be easier for me to find someone, but it's not an easy chore. I'm just going to be honest, it's not.
Yeah, I remember you telling me, I was like, hey, how easy is it to find somebody in Kentucky that either understands? Because it's not just finding an attorney. And it's
Mhm.
not just finding a probate attorney. It's
No.
finding somebody that's going to think through the entire deal from start to finish to close and
Mhm.
understand we're not just looking at it as a probate, we're looking at it as a closing. And
Right.
I know you said it's just hard, so in
Mhm.
a market like Kentucky, what are some things that you do that kind of helps because it's a different market?
Well, I mean, as far as finding an attorney, our attorneys belong to our real estate investments groups, the ones that work. Now, my attorney is a real estate attorney that has, because of some of us that do probates, he's kind of had to become a probate expert. And he has sidestepped every landmine that's ever come up. But I like the fact that he's an investor. I like the fact that um, he just is he's a guy that is just very knowledgeable, and he is all about closing the deal. So whatever it takes to get that deal closed, that's what Harry's going to do. So if you ever need an attorney in Kentucky, I've got somebody for you. I wish we had probate attorneys here, and there may be one, and I just don't know him, but that really understood investors. That's my problem here with most of the probate attorneys. I had one tell me not that long ago that wholesaling was illegal. He wouldn't be part of it. I said, well, how about if we close the deal over at my attorney's office.
Right.
It's just a lack of knowledge. We can't all know everything, right? We just can't. So that's a tough question, though, Al.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, it happens all the time when people are asking those questions.
Mhm.
And they've asked me, said, how do you know? I mean, I'd say, well, primarily their practice is probate, but then we take it a step
Mhm.
further. It's not just primarily probate; it's also the people that they work with and that they're
Mhm.
surrounded with, and then it's also a mental factor of they don't just think about it as a close as a contract. They think about how to
Mhm.
solve the issue, right?
The
Solve the
problems.
problem and the
Mhm.
challenges that come with it. So I've seen that out there too, and I think it's fascinating seeing like you in the Kentucky market, somebody in a Colorado market, and something I've been slowly, it's just been working. I think it's because of what I've been doing and where I've been going and what's happened. I have people in Colorado, attorneys in Colorado
Mhm.
that call me out of the blue, random,
Mhm.
and then I ask them, I'm doing now that
Yep.
legwork of, hey, let
Mhm.
me ask you, do you run the gamut in probate? And they're like, all day.
Mhm.
Hey, do you do this in probate? Well, we do a little bit of it. And trust me,
Mhm.
I think about it as the investor brain. If they're kind
Mhm.
of on the fence about it, why are we going to them?
Why? Yeah. Why are we doing this? Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to even get into it. So that's huge. And of course, one thing that also comes up all the time,
Mhm.
leads, right? We
Yep.
save the best for last. And I know everybody's glued. Everybody's ready to like write down, where do we go for this? Everybody's going to go through the records tonight.
Mhm.
What have been some of the most crucial or interesting ways that you've been able to pull lists or find leads, unconventional ways? Maybe it may be through fire damaged properties or utilities or water, tax delinquents. What is stuff that Sharon has seen in these deals?
Well, I've found a significant amount of properties in code violations. Um, so that the people passed away, maybe before they passed away, they had a lot of code violations, and then they just keep stacking up, and there'll be a crossover. For leads in my area, I thought we were just horribly old school because we do not have open APIs here where you can pull the information from the records here, which is so terrible. But we have something that is in the newspaper on this at the same time every month, where you would have the commissioner sale, the sheriff sales, all of the legal notices. So it has all of the information that you need. It has the name and the address of the executor or the personal representative, the administrator, and it has the name and address of the deceased. That's all you need to work in probate. You don't need a case number, you don't need a date of death. Remember, they've opened the probate, so they're raising their hand and they're saying, I'm ready. Now, when I first got started, I went back 6 months. This is really 2000, I think 2008, Al. We had to go to the library on microfiche and go back 6 months. We went back 6 months, got those leads so that we started to build our list. Every month you want to add the new leads. So every month you've got a different group of people. And remember when I said 5 months, you start to get the really big momentum. Think about it. Once you've done 5 months of leads, everybody's in the fifth month going forward. You've got somebody in the fifth month. So some places, if you Google Harris County, Texas, they're online. You can Google Cook County and Chicago, Illinois, they're online. They are not online in Louisville, Kentucky. New Jersey, God bless you, you got to go to the courthouse. I think Fort Lauderdale, maybe not for an attorney, but I had a student in Fort Lauderdale and he had to go to the courthouse.
Wow.
So it depends. Not every place on the planet is online. And what I found was I'm not a big proponent of buying leads unless you have no other choice, because they're very often obituaries. And how do you feel if you just buried your parent and you get a letter tomorrow? It's just so not cool. I just think by following the process, I really think that was where my success came from. I just looked at the compassion for the people. I figured out the mail piece to use, the timing. And then from a branding perspective, I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Mr. Sparkle over there. Um, he's, I mean, it's just a fact. You can't be offended. The people that are meant to come with you, um, to work with you, are going to choose you because of you. And that's your personality. Now, if they're looking for somebody that's bouncing off the walls, they're going to choose Al every time.
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's just the fact. And you have to get very clear on your avatar. Who is your ideal client? It's not everybody. It's a specific person that you will appeal to. And once you can do that, you can be okay with just ending up with the people that you're meant to be with.
Yeah, I hear a lot of times that people don't buy the product, they buy you.
They buy you, and that is true. Yep.
Yeah, and that happens. That's just business. They like your personality.
Mhm.
They like what you're able to do. And yes, I guess I'm the type that's bouncing off the walls all the time. But
And I love it.
but you know what? I move and shake, and Gina could tell you. There's a problem, and it's going down. We're immediately figuring it out, and that's just
Mhm.
always been my style, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we got to move on with it and figure it out, or otherwise, it's got to be worth everybody's time. But
I
like, yeah,
I was going to say, I'm looking up here at Frank. He says lots of Texas, even when the county is online, they don't have much information available. Yeah, that's true. We have had to go into county records sometimes. Well, I would say, first of all, to see if the leads are online, Google your city and the plus sign probate filings. Google your county plus probate filings. Sometimes it will pop up. We've gone into our county online records here. They don't have probates. They do have wills. And I have to have a disclaimer here. Wills are so darn funny to read. You can waste so much time reading wills because they'll say in 1972, Aunt Minnie made me mad. She's out of the will. And they're just hilarious. But you can sometimes find that crucial piece of information if you can just look for that crucial piece of information. It will sometimes be in there. You do have to do a little bit of detective work because there are over 3,300 counties in the US, and every single one of them is different.
yeah, and I'm thinking about this, and Frank, you'll probably love this, which is I feel like the harder it is to find the leads,
Mm-hmm.
the better the deal could be once you get it because nobody's
Mm-hmm.
really going after it,
Yeah.
right? So like Sharon, you're talking about in Kentucky how sometimes it's really hard to be able to, I mean, you either have to go to the courthouse or there's different, maybe restrictions on being able to get these leads. But to me, that sounds like opportunity
Mm-hmm.
because that means a lot of people are lazy and they
Mm-hmm.
don't want to take the added step of, okay, let's
Yep.
figure it out. I mean, there was a point before while I was getting into this niche about like looking through records that I was home hours and hours and hours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people wouldn't take the time to do stuff like that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
like Frank saying, I mean, in Texas, uh that's an opportunity for people out there, right? I mean, that's why people like Tyler Austin with REI SIF, that's a lot of his philosophy, which is incomplete data and data that's hard to
Mm-hmm.
find because people
Yep.
that don't take the time to do it, miss out on those deals. But those are things that you can capitalize on. Huge stuff that you're going through. And Sharon, you were
Mm-hmm.
talking about some interesting things with the will and family members, and we can probably get into like so many stories tonight.
Yeah.
Uh,
If you ever get depressed, just go on your county records and there'll be a drop down menu that says wills. Just read them for about an hour or two. You'll feel so much better. There's just so much humor in wills.
Oh, there's a lot of things that happen. But here's the benefits of working with the right attorney or working with the right
Mhm.
real estate professional, which is when you get that deal where maybe a family member's left out and somebody's in the will and it's hinging on that will, you got to come up with solutions. And working with somebody that's been through that before, I'm sure Sharon, you've seen that where
Mhm.
it hinges on somebody being left out. Um,
Mhm.
how do you work
Yep.
through that? So I'm sure you've seen all that kind of stuff. But leads, code violations. I feel like we definitely got to bring Glenn back on to talk about code violations. That'd be great. Or I know Dave Day's definitely watching. He's already at the courthouse.
He's already there. Yeah. Well, here they're online, but I have to tell you, they're not easy to find. And I finally called down to the code violations from, it's called IPL here, from my old home inspection company days, and said, look, I know there's got to be a website for these. You don't have these all on paper. And he said, well, yeah, here it is. It'll tell you which ones are being torn down and who's got the violations. And a lot of them are, a disclaimer, they're in really bad areas. So what I would do, they're in a spreadsheet. I would just go down the zip codes and go, no, yep, no, maybe. And I would write down those few. You're not going to get a million leads, but in this business, you get some over here, maybe the bulk of them here. And if you've got 5 to 7 ways to get leads, you can start to build a real business.
Amazing. It's just as easy as that, being able to do things with branding and marketing, finding the leads, really knowing how to talk to people.
Yeah.
And again, I could totally see the vibe that you would give people of a no resistance conversation.
Yeah.
This is what you are. This is who you are. This is the service you provide. And just by having that alone, that's really drawing people in, which is huge.
Well, another tip too, when you go to a house, if people go, oh, I'm all nervous, I don't know what to say, whatever, just go in and introduce yourself and then start to look for visual clues. And I usually say, tell me about the property. And if they look open to saying, like, if they say that's their mom this past, tell me about your mom. I noticed she's got all this incredible craft stuff here. She's got all these cookbooks. Was she the cook in the family? Oh, yeah. For 50 years, she cooked every Christmas dinner here. And then they just tell you this big story. And then you just wait for them to tell the story. Then you say, oh, would you like to show me the property? And then from there, you just go on and you just look at the property, let them talk a little bit more, and then you start to hone in on coming to some type of an agreement on price. And a lot of times I'll say, what were you thinking you were going to get for the house? I usually say that on the phone and before I go out, and they'll say, well, the neighbor got whatever the price, 200,000. And I'll say, well, let me look. Well, yeah, it looks like that house was completely updated. Is your mom's house completely updated? Nope, it's all original. So I like to change the seller's expectations on that phone call. I like for them to know they're not getting this, whatever it is they think they're getting. They're not getting it because they're not comparing apples to oranges. So that when you go to the property, they already know that they're not going to get this magic number that is unrealistic that they hope to get. But I think you have the opportunity to set yourself up for a win early on. It's a matter of listening. It's a matter of talking to them, asking the right questions and that sort of thing. And it really doesn't always come down to price.
Yeah, it comes down to people liking and trusting you, what you're able to offer, and the relatability. I mean, you may have been through a similar situation or knew a family member that's gone through that before. You're able to relate to what's happening and be able to help. Huge value, golden nuggets. Everybody's learning out there, right? I know everybody's glued. The viewership's even gone up over the last hour. And it's amazing to have this. So, just so you know, Sharon, we've had I think this is the second time we had Carrie on that talked about this back in season 1 about probate and stuff. But you're talking about it, even a different side to it with the marketing, the branding. And I know this is a hot topic in probate and people really want to get into it. So I know that there's going to be people that are going to be watching this over and over on strategies and methods and stuff. How can people find more about what you're doing, your market, your content, your channel? I know we've been putting it up on the screen as we go, but where can people find out more and learn more from you?
They can come over to the blog, the Louisville Gals Real Estate blog. And From there is a link to the podcast, Let's Talk Real Estate Investing, which you can get whenever you listen to podcasts, where Al's going to be a guest on my podcast coming up in a few weeks. I can't wait for that. I'll definitely be the steak and he'll be the sizzle again. I'm sure of that. You're never going to forget that term. And he said, over here, Teresa said, it's hard to believe Al won't be someone's cup of tea. Positive energy all the time. And they may say, listen, this guy, he's like making me nervous. he's so all over the place. But no, it's the truth of the matter. Stay focused on what you do. So come over to the blog. I've got like 900 pieces of content over there, blogs and podcasts and all kinds of freebies. There's a freebie you can get over there called the Probate Investing Starter Kit. But you can always email me. He's put my email address up there, Sharon@SharonVornholt.com. Just find me. You can find me on Facebook pretty much everywhere. That's so funny, Teresa. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I have my style, right? A lot of people know it.
I love it. Now I'm feeling neglected because I don't have sizzle. I'm like, how can I get some of this sizzle?
and we know what the recap for the next week on the Al Nicoletti Show is going to have. It's going to be the Sizzle Fest. Mike's
now I'm going to have I'm going to send you a referral soon on the man that told me about the steak and the sizzle, and I want you to give him a really hard way to go over this.
I'll make sure I bring it up. I'll tell him I'm for sure. But you know, like Teresa's talking about, which is it's you have a style, and people really got to like your style.
Yeah.
And you got to jive with people, and people also have to understand. You may get a seller though, Teresa, that doesn't understand that they got to go through this process. And I'm the type that we got to do this. This is what we got to do. We got to get it done. Let's close. Let's move on. And some don't think that way. Some think, oh, they want to just drag it on. And so the style's got to work. Everything's got to jive with the people that you're working with. So that's big right there. And then Mike's over here behind the set. He said, I just ordered Get Different. Nice. Thanks for the permission. All right. Huge right there. I mean, those are the kind of books that help people all the time. That's why we put all these books up here of people that have been on the show. We got to make sure we get a piece from you. I don't know if you have your book or a cup. We got to make sure we put something on the shelf for Sharon, because that'd be huge. That's what we always do in the back. Anybody that's been on the show, they're on the shelf. Thanks so much for recommending books. I know everybody loves that kind of stuff. It's those little things, you know, from time to time that really help people out there. So Sharon, it's been a blast. You would never believe it's been almost an hour and a half. I mean, tons of energy, tons of nugget dropping right there. And as I do with all my guests at the end of the show, final words, final thoughts on anything probate, Sharon, the real estate world, where we're headed in the market, in the baby boomer period, anything you got, final words, final thoughts.
Well, I think if you don't add probates to your business, you are missing the boat. If you think about chasing leads, all the time we're chasing leads. Where else can you get a steady stream of leads every month due to the cycle of life? It's just a cycle of life. Where else can you go to get a steady stream of motivated seller leads that need your help, that are happy to see you show up? I mean, I don't know of any other niche where you can have this happen, but get started. And I want to give a shout out to, while men have always been great at real estate, women they're still trying to find their place in real estate. And I think women are uniquely qualified to do this. I think they're uniquely good at it. They're just, heck, we've been negotiating with toddlers since they were 2. So we know how to talk to people of all different types. And we have skills that maybe not everyone has, but take advantage of that and just go out and be yourself, become an expert. Look into my probate course, Probate Investing Simplified. It is a course that will teach you all the boring stuff, and it will teach you marketing, and it will teach you how to show up with the correct mindset to get the deal, and I'll show you how to do direct mail the right way.
Awesome. Tons of jam-packed information right there.
Yeah.
So definitely check it out. Check out Sharon's course. I know she's got the different stuff, different content that she's always pumping out. So you got to check that out on Facebook. And we put up her email. So if you got to reach out to her there, that's huge. So Sharon, it was so nice to get to meet you finally.
Yeah, finally.
I know. And you got a dose of me, the sizzle, and what my style and how I bring things to the table. So it was a blast. I'm so glad you pumped out so much information for the audience. I know they've truly loved it and enjoyed it. And all the people that are going to be listening to this episode later, you got to make sure you take it tidbits at a time. There's so much stuff in marketing and branding.
A lot.
Probate. You can't all digest it in one episode. So maybe what you do is when you're in the situation, apply each little segment. So like Sharon talked about. So Sharon, it's been a blast. Thank you so much. I can't wait to meet you in person one day. I hope to see you at something one day, and keep in touch. And I'll see you on the social media platforms. We'll
for sure.
Yeah, sounds like
I'll share this around to everyone.
It's been on every investing group right now, live on YouTube. It's everywhere. Don't worry, it's going everywhere. You got it.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. We really enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon. Hope to see you soon.
Same here.
All right. Take care. Well, I don't know about you, but I was even taking notes on things that I didn't even think about in the investing world when it comes to probate. And one thing that I drew out was a chart of what she talked about, that you can hit 81% of these contacts after your fifth mailer, and how there's a percentage that they stop mailing after the third mailer. And how that line graph works out. And people just give up on going after these types of leads, whether they're open or they're closed kind of probates, whatever they are. But so many things tonight on marketing and your mail pieces. I mean, I was blown away by what's worked for her has been the computer typewritten out letter. I mean, I always think about it as like a handwritten note or something like that. People talk about that, or different types of strategies when it comes to all this stuff, and how it's so important to tell them, who are you? What are you doing? Have that no resistance kind of conversation, and building that rapport, not just about the real estate, but anything even to help them with their transaction, with the deal, helping them with the furniture, and getting a clear understanding of what their expectations are. It's huge. And the overall point too is that there's a massive opportunity out there in probate. You all know I've talked about that so many times, again and again and again. There's a huge opportunity. It's a matter of your approach, who you go to, build the connections out there with people, make those connections with the attorney, the title companies, how important that is, that understand probate. But be the go-to, get your branding together, get your website together, especially with people out there. And I mentioned this with Sharon. It's crazy that I get on a call and they tell me that all their buddies, anytime they get a probate, they pass it off. They just say, we don't want to do it. I remember having a conversation actually with someone, and they said that in the last year, they took all their probates and they said they didn't want to deal with it. And I said, well, let me ask you, what percentage of those deals were probate deals? And they said 15%. 15%. That's 15% of your business for an entire year, which were probates. And if you only knew where to go and the right people to come to, can you imagine how much more money that would actually end up being in a deal? So it's so crazy to hear things about, building those connections. Because to me, it sounds like common sense, but a lot of people, they freeze, or, they don't know where to go or what to do. Tons of information from Sharon tonight. Huge stuff. I thought she was incredible. I could totally see why sellers go to her. And of course, I love everybody interacting. And Teresa, going back to Teresa, I think it's just important that you got to jive with sellers, and not everybody's going to fit that seller. And it's so important that you recognize that up front on what's your style, what's their style, what's going to happen, because you want to make it all worth it for everybody and yourself to make sure that this is going to be something that's going to happen. So I love everybody that's been watching tonight, whether it's Kevin. I love that Kevin's been watching. Alan, True, Fallon, Alan, Doug, Gina. Love Gina. I'm sure you still got it on right now, Gina. Rachel, love that she's watching. Frank, and just everybody that's on it. Mike's ordering the book. I mean, this is like, see, this is why we have the show, right? So when we bring on people, these are things that people haven't even heard of. I mean, I bet Mike hasn't heard of that book before, right? I bet True hasn't heard of the marketing piece in the beginning. That was just a massive nugget on what you got to know. This is why we have the show. We're bringing on people that can help really educate you and explain why it's important to have these things in your market. And I love, don't you love, I love everybody staying on for the ending monologue too. This is amazing. That's why I love doing this kind of stuff, because I want to help you all out there, whatever market you in, bring in big people to the show. So that's a wrap for tonight, everybody. I'm sure you probably think I've had multiple cups of coffee tonight. I've actually had no cups of coffee. I could probably go for another hour or two. It depends if Dave's on the show tonight. But that was the other thing that tied in tonight, Mike, which was so many things that Sharon was talking about, which was having the branding or the code violations kind of tied in a lot of the guests that we've had on the show, like Mark Drager with brand. All I thought was like Mark Drager with branding. Or and then Dave Day being at the courthouse for code violations. I'm just, it's incredible. All of this stuff is amazing, and all the guests that have been on the show. If you missed any of tonight, go back to the beginning. You got to check out everything that Sharon talked about. And a great idea, take little tidbits and segments, chop it up, watch this kind of stuff over time, apply it to your situation. That's also going to be big. But if you missed any of it, check it out. And you can check out all the amazing guests that have been on the Al Nicoletti Show season 1, 2, and 3. And it's going to keep on coming. We got more to go. Next week, we got a big one with Jason Palliser. It is going to be a big episode. You don't want to miss that. We're going to make sure we have tons of notes, tons of questions. He brings a lot of knowledge. He has a special thing called the 2-day blueprint. Everybody loves it. Everybody loves going to it. And we're also going to talk about something interesting that Jason's been working on and he's had over the time, getting into tax delinquent stuff. So we can't forget about that. We'll make sure we get into it. So it's a wrap, everybody. I will see you all next week. Set the reminder, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. I will see you then. Have a great night. Take care.